Welcome to another Tuesdays with Trey. I want to start by thanking you for the last couple of months. I'm not a professional radio or podcast personality. I'm not even in politics anymore, but you've been kind enough to overlook that and a host of other shortcomings and give me a chance. So I want to say thank you. We've had some really wonderful guests for which I'm grateful, but I am principally grateful to you for listening and reacting and offering your own opinions. The comments I have enjoyed the most are twofold. Number one, words of encouragement for the guests who are not particularly well known. Guests like my wife, Terry, Mary Langston, Sharia, Ben Young, and even Kim Mulkey. Kim is very well known in her circles, but I'm glad a different kind of audience got a chance to hear from a Hall of Fame basketball coach. Number two, I love when people stop me and say, I listen to your podcast, but I don't agree with you. That's what life is about, listening to the other side, forging friendships, even with those with whom we disagree, and trying to persuade. I love persuasion, the art of persuasion, moving someone or perhaps yourself to consider new information, to see things in a different way, to reevaluate. Persuasion is what enables you to be heard, to be understood, and ultimately to move others perhaps closer to your way of thinking, or at least at a minimum, a better understanding of why you believe what you believe. What we have right now in this country is not persuasion at the political level. It is ratification, validation, identifying folks who already agree with us and seeing if our tribe is bigger than the other tribe. That's what politics is now. It's partly why our country is so divided, because this model of politics is conflict dependent. I got to tell you, ratifying what others believe is not hard. Validating what somebody already believes is not hard. You can make a lot of money telling people what they already believe. You can be really successful on social media. You can have really popular radio shows or podcasts or even television shows. But it's not hard. What is hard is persuading people, moving them, communicating in a way that causes them to think or act differently. I want you to imagine standing in front of a jury in a criminal trial. I want you to go ahead, close your eyes unless you're driving, and do it. Imagine that you are standing in front of a jury of 12 people in a criminal trial, and you represent the defendant, and all 12 members of the jury are friends of the defendant. How hard is that? Or imagine you're the prosecutor and all 12 members of the jury are either cops or friends of the victim of the crime. How hard is it to win when you are talking to people who already agree with you? Talking to people who are already predisposed to agree with you. That is not hard. That is not a challenge. Persuasion, on the other hand, is hard. Moving someone to think about something in a new, different way. That is a challenge, but it is a challenge worth accepting. So go back in your mind. You're standing in front of those same 12 members of the jury, but none of them is friends with the defendant and none of them is friends with the victim. All 12 are open-minded and willing to be persuaded. Can you do that? Do you want to do that? Can you move people? Can you communicate earnestly and effectively what you believe, why you believe it, and why you believe it is best to adopt that position? There's no name calling, there's no demagoguery, there are no insults, because that won't work. If you're trying to get people to move over to your way of thinking, those things don't work. Just pure persuasion. Can you do it? Do you want to know how to do it? Wait right there. We'll have more next. That's what I want us to spend some time on when I come back. And when I say come back, it is because I lost at my own efforts to persuade, and I am going to the beach with my wife, Terry. Terry loves the beach, always has since she was a little girl. She loves the togetherness of everyone crammed into one house. She loves the card games at night. She loves sitting in her chair and reading some happy novel, watching the waves. I like watching the waves too for about 10 minutes, and then I'm ready to do something else, like work or practice putting or almost anything other than just sitting in a chair watching the waves. But I suspect Terry is right. There is something mystical and magical about the beach. There is a reason so many people want to see the ocean one final time before they go on the other side. But for me, the beach conjures a mixture of emotions. It's like a complicated relationship with someone we've known for a long time. The ocean reminds us of how small we are, how potentially inconsequential we are in the grand scheme of things, but perhaps how consequential we are in the minds and hearts of those we are sharing the beach with, and perhaps even how consequential we are in the eyes of the person who created the oceans. There is a certain repetitiveness to the waves crashing that is reassuring. It is consistent, it is reliable. In a world that seems so out of control, there is the tide coming and going with certitude. And it's a certitude that sometimes we crave. The ocean is a metaphor of sorts for life. We see so little of it. We can't see the vastness of it. We can't see the depths. We can't see what lies beneath or beyond. It's a little bit like meeting a person. All we see is the very surface, but what lies beneath is complex and it is wonderfully made. And we're lucky if we ever get a chance to see it, to appreciate the depth and the mystery of it all. The ocean reminds me that life will continue long after I'm gone. It existed before and will be there in all of its majesty long after I'm gone. It really takes no notice of us. We may notice it, but it takes no notice of us. It is eternal and we are not. It is humbling to stare into that expanse and know that it doesn't even take notice of us. The beach is unifying. There are families from all over united in at least the desire for good weather and fun for our children and grandchildren. We are all the same, which is unifying. It's good. We are all the same, standing in the surf, looking into that vast expanse. The beach connects generations. I used to walk with my mom and my grandmother looking for shark's teeth. I have no idea what we were going to do if we found them, but my grandmother loved to look for shark's teeth. And then my children walked with my parents after that. And I suppose one day some youngster will be walking with me before too long. At least 3 generations would stay up late playing cards. That was always a challenge for me because I had to sleep on the couch in the room where they were playing cards. But I remember listening to my parents argue over who made the right bid in bridge, which is a pretty complicated card game, by the way, or hearing my grandmother squeal with delight when she got a red 3 in the game she called canasta. It happened so fast, honestly. I can actually still see my grandmother walking in the surf looking for shark's teeth. I can still hear her when she won canasta. And I can still see her making sure that she read the Bible before she went to sleep, no matter what time it was. She's been gone for a good long while now. But every time I go to the beach, I can still see her and I can still hear her. That is probably, truth be told, the real reason I'm not crazy about the beach. It's a reminder of our own mortality. My 3 sisters and I would go walk on the beach and leave footprints in the sand. Clear as could be, 4 kids walking toward the pier. And then the footprints would disappear. They're gone. Not even a trace. It was as if we did not even exist. No record of our having been there. You cannot win a battle with the beach. It is bigger and more powerful. It's cruel in that even the best sandcastle or drip castles, as my kids would call them, no fingerprints, no names written in the sand, can even survive the next high tide, let alone survive history. So maybe the lesson of the beach isn't the ocean, the sand, the sun, all the things that make us feel small. Maybe the lesson of the beach is the people we sit on the beach with. And just appreciating this chance we have together, no matter how short it is. And maybe it's not what we build or write in the sand, but what we write and build in the lives of those who go to the beach with us. Well, I'm going to try to enjoy it because I want my wife, Terry, to be happy. It's just a few days. That's all we have in both the grand and little schemes of life. Just a few days to see if we can leave any mark of note on the big things in life, like the ocean, the sand, the sun, and the biggest of all, which is time. I'll see you next week on Tuesdays with Trey. Thank you for spending another Tuesday with Trey. Please subscribe, rate, or review this podcast on Apple Podcast or at foxnewspodcast.com. You've been listening to the Trey Gowdy Podcast on the Fox News Podcast Network.
For the full podcast, go to foxnewspodcast.com.